welcome back. Today I'm here with my September TBR. I have 9 books on my list for the month, which is a bit ambitious for me, but I have hopes, so we'll see how this goes. To start off, there are 2 books which I've actually already completed in the first few days of the month, so doing pretty good towards that goal. So I'll go over those first. The first book that I completed was a Wiccan book. This is from Llewellyn's Sabbath Essentials series, which is a set of little resource books, and each book covers a Wiccan holiday. So I've just been buying the books as those holidays come up, and the next holiday is Mabon or Mabon. I don't know how to say it, and that will be later this month, I believe, September 23rd. These books are great. They give history on the sort of lore behind the holiday, the way it was celebrated in more ancient times, the way it tends to be celebrated in more modern times, suggestions for ways to celebrate it, recipes, crafts. It's got all sorts of little fun things. And if you can see, I've made some little notes, tabbies, all throughout this book. So it has been another great resource, and I gave it 4 stars. The second book that I've completed so far is The Adventure Zone, Murder on the Rockport Limited. This is the second installment in the Adventure Zone graphic novel series, and it is the graphic novel version of their podcast, which is I've talked about this, I know, several times, so you probably know by now, but the Adventure Zone is run by the McElroy family. It's 3 brothers, like grown adult men, and their father, all playing D&D together. So fun. It's just so funny, it's wholesome, I love it, it's the best. And this graphic novel, as well as the first, have just done a tremendous job of capturing the whole dynamic between the characters, the vibe of the podcast. They've really done a great job of capturing that, I think. I laughed out loud, I just had so much fun reading it, and I gave it 5 stars because of that. Moving on to the books that I'm currently reading. First off, I have another Wiccan book, which is called Living Wicca by Scott Cunningham. And this is a bit of further reading that follows up his Intro to Wicca book, which is just called Wicca, Guide for the Solitary Practitioner. This is a further guide for the solitary practitioner. So it's quite short and should be easy to knock out. I just keep finding myself getting pulled into other reads, and so I haven't been focusing on this as much. Then I'm also working on The King's Curse by Philippa Gregory, which is the 6th and final book in her Cousin's War series. This particular book is following the story of Margaret Pole, who is the cousin of Elizabeth of York, the protagonist from the 5th book. I had some major problems with the 5th book, which you can hear more about if you watch my wrap-up video that I posted recently. So far this book is going much better. I'm having a much more enjoyable time reading it. I'm only about 100 pages in, but it seems like it's avoiding the issues that came up in the last book. This book's story starts immediately after the end of the 5th book, when we were in the reign of Henry VII, and takes us into the reign of Henry VIII. And that's pretty much what I know so far. Then my final current read is Ancillary Sword by Anne Leckie. This is the 2nd book in her Imperial Ratch series, and also it's one of my picks for Space Opera September, which if you have not heard about this, you should definitely go check it out. It's being hosted by Thomas from SFF 180, and he has a really, really cool setup. There's a Goodreads group if you want to check it out. I will try to remember to link that down below, where the goal is just to read space opera books, to read between 1 and 4, and for each book that you read, you get a different ranking, and then there are different challenges you can try to do, which will get you different bonus like ships, and at the end of the month you can send Thomas the list of what you've read, and he will make you this awesome certificate with some of his art to signify your ranking and what challenges you succeeded in, and it's just really, really cool. So I am excited to be taking part in that, and Jess and I are actually doing a buddy read on this book since we read the first book together. So I'm excited, and so far I am really enjoying it. I'm not super far in, but it has thus far been much easier to get into than the first book, so I will say that. Moving on to the other books that I plan to read this month. First off, I have a novella by Becky Chambers, which I'm really, really excited about. It's brand new. Jess actually pre-ordered this one on Kindle, so we got it as soon as it came out. Becky Chambers is the author of the book A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet and the trilogy it is set in, which is just fantastic. It's one of my favorite sci-fi trilogies. I think she's definitely solidified her place as one of my favorite sci-fi authors. Just perfect. So I'm really, really excited to read something new by her. And this will be another of my space opera September reads. This one, I don't know much about it, so I just grabbed a little blurb from Goodreads. In her new novella, best-selling author Becky Chambers imagines a future in which, instead of terraforming planets to sustain human life, explorers of the solar system instead transform themselves. And then it went on into a bunch of stuff that I didn't feel like going through. So that's honestly all I needed to know. All I needed to know really is that it's by Becky Chambers, and I'm sold. For my third and probably final pick for Space Opera September, I actually took all of the books on my sci-fi TBR shelf. I took the ones that sounded interesting to me and the ones that were sort of next in a series, and then I picked a random number and chose a book from that. And the winner of that was The Collapsing Empire by John Scalzi. This is the first book in his Interdependency series, which has 2 books out now. I think there's a third that is on the way soon, but I'm not sure if it is a trilogy or if there are more books expected. But I'm definitely excited to pick it up. I picked this up as soon as it came out. I think I pre-ordered it, and I just have not gotten around to it for a really long time. So Space Opera September is a great opportunity to right that wrong. Then my penultimate September read is Lint by Jo Walton. This is her most recent book. It just came out earlier this year, and I had it pre-ordered. It is a historical fiction that conveniently is also set around the time of the Cousins War during the 1400s. But this book takes more of a historical fantasy spin on 15th century Christianity alongside the emergence of humanism in Renaissance Italy. And the final book on my list, which, like The Collapsing Empire, was also chosen by picking out the books on my fantasy TBR shelf and drawing a random number, and that book is The Crystal Cave. This is a fantasy book that is based in Arthurian legend, which I really have not read much about. I took a medieval lit class where I did read some of the original Arthurian legends, but I haven't read any modern adaptations, and I'm really curious to do so. This also seems like it'll kind of tie in with the whole historical fiction vein that I've been digging into lately, so I'm excited to try it out, and I've heard really good things about this book and this series. So there you have my picks for September. Let me know down in the comments what you plan on reading. Are you participating in Space Opera September? Let me know. Thank you all so much for watching. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you'd like to see more. I hope you all are having a wonderful week so far, and I will talk to you soon. Bye!